Hi, my name is Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Boris Johnson has completely changed tack on his use of tariffs for a no-deal Brexit scenario, but how he just simply switches from one destructive, impossible situation to another. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So just to bring up to speed with what the government's position, I suppose technically still officially is, but certainly was. Under Theresa May, when the no-deal Brexit was rearing its head and people were saying, oh, you need to use things as a negotiating position, her government took the view that, okay, if we end up with a no-deal Brexit, the problem is that we are going to have massive checks at the borders. We're not prepared for those. We're not putting anything in place for them because she didn't really want a no deal. And the parliament at the time were not going to allow a no deal either. So although the government kept saying they were doing this and that and the other for the point of a no deal, it was all smoke and mirrors. We haven't actually prepared for a no deal at all, apart from a few little things, just to give the impression. So what she said was, right, what we need to do is have tariffs reduced to zero. In other words, we were going to let things come into the country and cheaply. The last thing the government wanted in the event of a no-deal Brexit was for the cost of food to suddenly increase because of all the tariffs that would now have to be put onto it if we follow the World Trade Organization schedules, as well as a range of other goods that we import as well, because then people's lives immediately get worse. And she already knows that there's a lot of people. She came up with the term jams for people just about managing. She didn't actually acknowledge that there's any such thing as poverty in the country, but she would acknowledge that there's a lot of people, millions of people, who are close. It's like there's no such thing as poverty here, but there are some people who are not much above it. And of course, if food prices suddenly increased by a large amount, then all of a sudden that is going to hit millions of people. Medicine prices increase as well, or you struggle to get them, then that's going to have a knock-on effect. The NHS has a budget, a restricted budget with the Conservative government, which means it would struggle to get drugs. There are already some people already been told that there's access to the drugs they need to live have already been restricted as well before we've even gone for the no-deal Brexit. So that was the position there. Now, the downside to that position for British businesses is you are massively undercut. Because what you are saying is that foreign companies producing goods and importing them into the UK can do so without having to pay import taxes, really, tariffs. On most goods. It wasn't for everything, but it was for most things. So now you've got British businesses, but it doesn't work the other way around. So they'll be trying to export to countries where those tariffs will apply. So you put them out of business. So it's a tactic that makes the bulk of the population believe that standards are being maintained in terms of the goods that they can buy, but you're putting British businesses out of business. The other problem with it is in terms of trying to pursue a trade deal with other countries, we have nothing to offer them. So we go to a country and say, we'd like a free trade deal, please. And they would just say, right, well, what are you going to give us? It says, well, you let us export our goods to you, tariff-free, and we'll let you do the same. To which that other country will go, but you're already doing that, aren't you? Oh, yeah. So it didn't work on any level. Now, Boris Johnson, because he wants his quick trade deals, and he's utterly... Now, here's the thing. I think he's utterly convinced. There is an element to which Boris Johnson will know certain things and he's just lying, he's just bluffing. There are things I think he just doesn't understand. I genuinely don't think he understands trade deals and how they work, because what he's asking for of the EU in particular is actually impossible. I believe he doesn't understand that, and I think he just thinks the obstacles to it are political rather than legal and economic. So what he's now said is, I'm going to do the opposite. We're going to do whack-eye tariffs on goods that the EU and the United States export to us. As if he's going to try and sound tough on the United States. Behave yourself. He will sign whatever they put in front of him. But from the EU point of view, he's threatening to increase tariffs on all of them. Now, you look at that and you think, well, okay, you can't really complain about that, Phil, because he's done the opposite of what Theresa May was doing and what Boris Johnson himself was going for a long time. That'll make the problems go away, because we will then have tariffs on goods coming into the country. That will at least not reduce the competitive advantage of British businesses. Of course it will, because particularly for ones who export to the EU, and a lot of them do, then businesses within the EU are still being able to trade tariff-free. But for other countries, maybe it protects them a little bit. And then, of course, if we go to countries and ask for a trade deal, yes, of course, when they say, what you're going to give us, it's like, well, in return for us being able to export to you tariff-free, you get to do so with us. Nice free trade deal. Benefits both of us. There is that. The problem with this is, first of all, here's Boris Johnson's apparent thinking on it. So he's thinking to himself, right, what we'll do, we'll increase the tariffs on goods that the EU and the US import to us, or export from their point of view. And that will reduce their competitive advantage, because there'll be other countries able to import at the lower tariff rates. Now, if he is thinking that, and he hasn't explicitly said that, but if he is thinking that, then that's wrong, because you're not allowed to do that. WTO terms, international trade terms, stipulate that you can reduce tariffs if you want. You don't have to adopt the WTO tariffs on incoming goods. You can do what you want. You're a sovereign country. If you want to reduce tariffs, you can do. You can reduce them to zero if you want. That's fine. But whatever you do for particular goods, you have to do for everyone. You can't have preferential treatment. So what Boris Johnson seemingly is proposing is preferential treatment for everyone in the world apart from the EU and the US. So he simply wouldn't be allowed to do that. The second problem with this tactic is, what is he pretending to be threatening? Because I think that's all it is. It's pretending. It's not a real threat. He's threatening to damage the businesses of the EU and the United States. These are two of the largest trade organisations in the world. Now, that in itself would be reason enough for most countries not to want to go toe-to-toe with them. I think out of any other country in the world, the only one that would seriously engage in an actual trade war with these two would be China. No one else really would be mad enough. But there's another layer to it, because for the UK in particular, we export, and exports, remember, how we make our money. That's how we make our money in trade. So we export half of our stuff to the EU and quite a lot to the United States. Frankly, the EU and the United States don't just together make up the bulk of our trade. They are our two by far largest customers. The EU well ahead of the United States, but the United States ahead of the rest as well. So we're also talking about pissing off our two biggest and best customers. That doesn't make sense on any level at all. So, and it will be understood by that, because the United States and the EU also have seasoned, intelligent trade negotiators. They know how things work. They're not going to be fooled by this at all. They're going to look at the situation and go, you must know this is crazy. You wouldn't dare do it, and just hold firm. But the thing is, I don't even think this is for domestic consumption. Some people will say, well, he's just doing it to sound tough in the press. I don't think he is. I think he genuinely believes that trade deals are easy. I think he bought into all the Brexiteer nonsense during the campaign that trade deals are easy. And, and because he does genuinely have this belief. People who know him intimately say this about him. He has this belief that things can just be done. And the only reason things seem to take a long time is because people piss about. And actually, if you have a strong leader who just says, just do it, then it will be done, and that's all there is to it. And he is going to have a rude awakening at some point this year. And it'll be quite late on, because he will not accept, even very late on, at the end of the transition period, that they're not going to turn around at the last minute. He may even hang on till New Year's Eve before he realises. And he's going to be in for a rude awakening. The problem is, I'm on the same bloody island. It's going to affect me as well. It's going to affect everyone as well. And it's appalling. absolutely appalling. But yeah, anyone who thinks that this is going to be a sensible negotiating strategy, it isn't. Because what they're suggesting, first of all, you cannot do in WTO terms. You're not allowed to have preferential terms for one country and not another unless you have a deal with them. That's the only way you're allowed preferential status for a country or a group of countries, to get a deal. And he's saying he doesn't want a deal, or he doesn't want the realistic deals that are actually on offer. There it is. We'll update it as we know more, I suppose. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.